most EXOs going forward are operating with building community first. Note that most of the biggest companies in the world are terrible at community.
Let's jump into the EXO framework, in particular, the external attributes here.
Sure. So, you see the brain diagram, and on the right, you see 5 externalities that map to the acronym SCALE. And leveraging one or more allows you to keep a very small resource footprint and scale very fast from there. And so we're going to cover the characteristics of these attributes, right? The first of these is staff on demand. The poster child of this is Uber. Right? As much as possible, don't hire your own employees because you have to manage people, et cetera, et cetera. Hire independent contractors, or there are platforms that allow you to do this. And not to pick on Marriott again, but when the pandemic hit, Marriott has 45,000 people in thousands of properties around the world, had to lay off 50% of their staff. It was a nightmare. All the lives and families that got disrupted with that. Airbnb, because they used the staff on demand model, the hosts are independent, basically laid off 2,000 people and kept right on trucking and moved ahead with very minimal disruption. We found during the pandemic that in the top 10 versus bottom 10 of the Fortune 100, the top 10 did 5 times better than the bottom 10 because of the inherent flexibility built into that. So staff on demand is the first of these. There's a bunch of examples. Amazon's Mechanical Turk allows you to take any task and farm it out to a large number of people. You have platforms like TaskRabbit or GigWalk or Fiverr where you can hire people to get things done. There's an amazing company called MBO Partners. And what they do is if you're a big company, you have maybe 3-4% contractors, independent contractors. We think that ratio should be about 30% because you need that resilience, flexibility. And MBO helps you manage all those contractors, onboarding, offboarding, training, background checks, et cetera, so they can help you drop the cost radically. So there's all these companies, or platforms or companies that can help you manage your staff on demand. From 2005 to 2015, 94% of new jobs in the US were in the gig economy. Okay, so the overall economy is shifting to that. Reid Hoffman wrote this book called The Startup of You, basically saying everybody will end up managing themselves as an independent contractor. So that's the staff on demand, the first characteristic. The next one is community and crowd. And Peter, why don't you talk about that?
Sure. So we're spelling out the acronym SCALE here. Here's your C. In this world of 8 billion people, we are connecting the entire planet at gigabit connection speeds, from 5G networks to Starlink. And your ability as an exponential entrepreneur to build a community around you that becomes your source of ideas, your source of customers, your source of quality checking is extraordinary, more than ever before. So at the core is your core team, right? These will probably be your founders, your employees, your personal network. Around that core team is your customers and alumni. You have a direct relationship, right? This is not the crowd. This is part of your community. You have a direct relationship with those individuals. Directly around the customers and alumni, you've got your vendors, your fans, your partners. One step removed, but still a direct relationship with those individuals. Around them is staff on demand. These are individuals, as we just discussed, that you can pull in to work for you for a period of time and support you in a multitude of different ways. And then everybody else outside of that is the crowd. And this model, one of the most powerful things you can do today is build a vibrant community. I mean, that's what we're doing right now with you. Pulling people into the EXO community and the Abundance 360 community, the Singularity community. Our mission is to build a relationship with you so we can go and do great things together. Now, lots of different models out there of companies that do this. Of course, TED, anybody who's been on stage is part of that core, but then anybody who is in the audience or anyone who is watching the videos and upvoting the videos and sharing the videos is part of TED's community. The X Prize Foundation, very proud, it's 29 years now since the company started.
Wow, 29 years.
Crazy.
Well, you've beaten Dan Sullivan's 25 years, so that's amazing.
Well, I have and will. So the X Prize goes out to the world and it says, here is a grand challenge, right? We have this $100 million X Prize out there funded by Elon Musk to do gigaton carbon removal. We just launched an X Prize asking teams around the world to detect and autonomously put out a wildfire within 10 minutes of its ignition. Right? Palmer Luckey, the founder of Oculus, was the first person to register as a team. And so what we do is around that challenge, around that, call it the massive transformative purpose of that X Prize concept, we form community. And those communities are teams competing for it. It's fans supporting it. It's funders supporting it. All of that is built around that core MTP of that X Prize. Wikipedia, of course, amazing what Wikipedia has been able to pull off.
I mean, think about Wikipedia. The world's information right now sits inside this basic website. One of my favorite examples of community is the Chinese company Xiaomi, which is the second largest phone company in China.
Out of no place. I went and met with the leadership team. They're extraordinary what they built.
It's amazing. And how have they done it? They're the second largest. They do no PR, no product development, no marketing costs at all. They have a community of 1,000 super users. And what they do is they say to those super users, you guys vote on what features you want to see in the new phone. And then those super users get to get the phone a few months early and can boast to their friends, here's the new phone, and look, I voted for this feature. And the word of mouth of that is so powerful, and the community of super users is so powerful that they can completely run their entire company with no PR, marketing, or product.
I mean, you used to pay millions for all the experts and all of the, that support. Now you get it for free from an authentic level of energy.
If you can properly use community, then you can use it for marketing, product development, training,
Q&A.
also hiring, right? Because if they're passionate about you, that's the best place to find new team members, etc. So it's incredibly powerful. Most EXOs going forward are operating with building community first. Note that most of the biggest companies in the world are terrible at community, right? And so this is a huge arbitrage opportunity there. So the next section after community and crowd to kind of navigate and harness all of that is algorithms, AI and algorithms. And Peter, take us through AI and algorithms, the most dominant thing happening in the world today.
It is. It's the most exciting, and hopefully you're playing with it. And the most important thing I can say is go and play. This is a great quote from Kevin Kelly, founding editor of Wired. He said, the next 10,000 business plans will be for an entrepreneur to take a domain and add AI to it. This happened, by the way, 100 years ago when the dominant new breakthrough was electricity, and electricity was being added to the drill, the mechanical drill, or the mechanical washer or dishwasher. It's happening once again. So I want to share a few basics here, which is, why is AI exploding now? The idea of AI began at a conference in 1956 at Dartmouth, 67 years ago. So why now? Well, there are 4 reasons. It's important for you to know them because they're going to give you a path of where things are going. The first reason is computational power. Here we see 50 plus years of Moore's Law, not slowing down. The death of Moore's Law has been predicted so many times. But in the last 5 years, we've had a tipping point in enough computational power to run these neural networks, these deep learning networks. The second reason is the amount of structured data out there. These large language models are being trained on all of the data that we've produced, and we're doubling the amount of data year on year. It's every tweet, every Facebook post, everything online. And that data is allowing these large language models to learn and anticipate what is next, right? They're learning from us. Third, really important, is that the algorithms are becoming much more efficient. Over the last 5 years, the price of training an AI algorithm has gone down 99.5%. And the fourth reason, no surprise, is the massive amount of capital going in. These investments are not slowing down, they're accelerating. And so with those 4 attributes, we're just driving better and better, more and more AI. A couple of quotes here. Sundar Pichai said it best. He said, AI could have more profound implications for humanity than electricity or fire. I believe that. Elon made it a little bit punchier. He said, companies are going to race to build AI or you'll be made uncompetitive. Essentially, if your competitor is racing to build AI, they will crush you. This is the way I phrase it, and I truly believe it. There are going to be two kinds of companies at the end of this decade. those that are fully utilizing AI and those that are out of business. So why? Why is this so important? Well, we're living in this tsunami of data, right? Autonomous cars with LiDARs and imaging. We're in a trillion sensor economy where you can know anything you want, anytime you want. And a competitor who's able to harness that data, create algorithms and get insights is way ahead of you. So how do you keep track of all of this? Well, one of the things I talked about at Abundance 360 this year, and all of the companies that I'm chairman, vice chairman, or an investor in, I'm saying, listen, you need a chief AI officer. You see that guy down at the bottom at the tsunami coming your way? It's not someone who's coding large language models for you, but it's an individual, a strategic advisor to the CEO who understands the field, sees what's going on, where the directions are, and is able to advise you in that regard. Let me go to a video from a dear friend of both of ours, Emad Mustak. Emad is the CEO of Stability AI. I just had him recently on my podcast, Moonshots and Mindsets. Let's take a listen to Emad.
Look at creative industry. Video games, $180 billion a year. Disney spends $10 billion a year. Amazon, $16 billion a year on content. All of that's going to change in the next couple of years alone, just from one tiny little 2 gigabyte file. Industry is about, again, information theory.
Yeah.
And so once you can basically take a system, you can have human input in the loop to train a system that's a generalist to understand principles. You disrupt just about everything.
What's your advice to that 20-year-old listening right now?
Drop everything. You should focus entirely on this. $100 billion, $1 trillion is going to go into this sector.
Say that again, how much?
$100 billion in the next few years, and then $1 trillion will go into this sector because it's so transformative and so few people understand it. There's never been something, a technological advance, that will diffuse as fast as this.
But what does it look like to focus? What would a person do?
Like if you're an entrepreneur, you'd be an entrepreneur in this. If you are someone who can communicate, you communicate this to other people and you get paid $1 million a year as a consultant, right?
If you're an artist, if you're creative,
if you're an artist,
use the tool.
You become the most efficient artist in the world. Corporations, the big programs, the big things will be outcompeted by just individuals and small groups. Building on top of this technology can do anything.
All right, let's go next to leverage and shared assets. Over to you, Salim.
Yeah, so the starting point of EXOs was really, as I mentioned, when Amazon Web Services launched, because then you could leverage the computing power that Amazon offered and go to that model. And there's hundreds of types of this. The sharing economy sits inside this category, right? Outsourcing, leveraging cars like Getaround or Turo does, or Rent the Runway. Opening up data sets, making those available. Fractional ownership of both IP and real estate are both aspects of leveraging other people's assets. So either you should be leveraging another asset, or if you have one, make it available for others to leverage.
Which makes you a platform.
Which then makes you a platform. And we'll talk about how do you build a platform in a bit. But this is a huge environment. Think about Waze, how explosive that was. Why? Because they leveraged the GPS on your phone to gather the location data, as opposed to Nokia buying Navtech, which owned the traffic circle sensors in all the roadways. That doesn't scale, right? And so this incredible, talk about Lab Central, the biotech lab.
Yeah, so if you're a biotech startup, you have so many requirements and it's so difficult to get all the approvals. So what a very enterprising entrepreneur did is he bought large lab facilities and he rented it out by the lab bench. So you could be an entrepreneur of one and have access to all of the equipment you possibly could want and get going. We can see that in other industries as well.
Yeah, people like Mark Hatch created lab spaces and fab labs around the world where people can share that, right? The Little Gadget Square, which is now a multi-billion-dollar company, was built at a fab lab. So you don't have to make the investment in all that equipment, et cetera, up front. So incredible capability to leverage other people's assets to then build your EXO. Okay. The next piece, the final E in scale, is engagement. And Peter, talk us through that.
Sure. So engagement is about how do you engage the crowd to make it community, and how do you engage your community to keep it sticky and together. So incentive prizes is a great way to turn crowd into community. We do this X Prize all the time. We put out this challenge, and those who connect with that challenge, with the MTP of that challenge, join in, form a team, support a team, and they go from the crowd to community. Gamification is how you make it sticky, right? Token economics is blowing this all up. One of my fraternity brothers, Michael Saylor, who runs MicroStrategies, just announced something called MicroStrategies Lightning Rewards. And what are they doing? Everybody inside your company gets a wallet, and when your employee behaves well, meaning they show up on time to the meeting, or they watched that particular training video, or they went and did whatever, they get Satoshis in their wallet. So you're literally connecting a direct connection of monetizing the behavior that you want. They call it MicroStrategy Lightning Rewards. I want to go to a dear friend of both of ours, Eric Poulier, who is the CEO of Vadim, and one of the most extraordinary companies on engagement. Let's take it away, Eric.
Thanks, Peter. I think a good way to think about engagement right now is this confluence of exponential technologies that have come together to transform the very nature of how we think about engaging our internal constituents and our external customers. Take a look at Pepsi, for instance. For the World Cup this year in Qatar, they actually printed 200 million QR codes on bags of potato chips, other snacks. When people scanned those potato chips, they didn't go to an app. Instead, they went to a Web3 wallet and in-dropped a smart NFT, not for speculation, but for engagement. It said share, take a selfie and share, and then your face became part of this massive soccer ball. The end result was an ongoing direct conduit of communication between the brand and the consumer. They had hundreds of thousands of people that willingly, happily gave first-party data. That's the holy grail of next-generation engagement. Gave that first-party data and said, okay, what else do you have for me? Pepsi then ended up with hundreds of thousands of people they can then talk to on an ongoing basis. Another good example, State Farm. State Farm put out over 1 million digital footballs into augmented reality. People went around chasing them all over the United States. And when they got them, they got all sorts of prizes. These things were redeemables and collectibles. They turned into NFTs, but they also turned into, again, first-party data, legally and ethically collected, that they can then turn into ongoing long-term relationships. Amazing examples for the next generation of engagement. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Eric. One of the most extraordinary platforms of engagement that you wrote about and Eric also loves is the Octalysis platform.
Yeah, let me mention this for a second. So Yukai Chao, who's a PhD out of Berkeley in gamification, put this framework together. And if you see the slides, what he did was he identified 8 major human motivations, like empowerment and epic meaning and ownership, and then four white hat positive ones and 4 negative ones: fear of missing out, unpredictability, avoidance, etc. And these are like a Maslow's hierarchy almost of major human motivations. Then he identified 150 plus game dynamics like leaderboards, progress bars, Easter eggs, and map them to these motivations. So if you have a community and you want to inspire more social influence, you do one of those things. If you want to do more scarcity, then you implement one of those things. If you want to do social inclusion, then you put in leaderboards and progress bars. And so he's mapped all of these. So now we have, for the first time ever, a completely prescriptive model for human engagement that should be embedded into any product or service going forward. And what we predict is EXOs now will be building out using this model. So for example, take most of the blockchains. They've exploded out of the gate by taking community, adding crypto economics and this engagement model, and totally getting $10-20 billion market cap out of nothing. And half the world, most of the world has never even heard of them. The most famous example of Octalysis being embedded into a product is Duolingo, where they've embedded all of the capabilities around it. And Peter, you talk about some of this, these engagement models also, right? But all of these are operating this. Gary Vaynerchuk with VFriends has created a whole community around these, and the people are trading these NFTs. So the Web3 world is connecting into this and naturally using all of these pretty aggressively. I've been talking to the C-suite of a bunch of CPG companies, and what we've been saying to them is the future of brands is going to be an MTP to give you purpose to that brand, Octalysis type engagement models to give you a prescriptive way of engaging with the customers, and an NFT architecture at the back end. Why? Because that gives you a permanent cookie that's programmable, and you can route around all the Web 2, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram gatekeepers and have direct relationship with your customers. So this is our view of the future of all brands going forward. And we think this will become incredibly profound over time. In fact, to go back a bit, in 2015, Paul Pullman, who is the CEO of Unilever, had me come into his top 200 executives. He then ordered every brand in Unilever to take on an MTP. Okay? 4.5 years later, the 5 most profitable brands in Unilever are the ones that had adopted the model the most. So we can start to see the model bite, but now we're going to see all brands go down this path with this NFT endpoint in different ways. So that gave you a summary overall of the 5 scale attributes